We naturally as humans make assumptions, but when you're going through any change or introducing change, we make a lot of assumptions.
Love is a strategy.
Hello and welcome to Love as a Strategy, a podcast that brings humanity to the workplace. We're here to talk about all things business, but we want to tackle topics that most business leaders tend to shy away from. We believe that humanity and love should be at the center of every successful business. I'm your host, Jeff Ma, and I'm here as always to have conversations and hear stories from real people about real work, real life, and in this season specifically, focusing in on something everyone can relate to, and that is change. My guest today is Andrea Wanerstrand, and she is a seasoned leadership strategist, an executive coach, and founder of A3 Culture Lab with over 25 years of experience inside global giants like Microsoft, Meta, T-Mobile, and Hitachi. She helps leaders shift from burnout to bold influence through her Mindset Maven Method and A3 philosophy, which is authentic, autonomous, and accountable, which we're going to talk about today. I'm very excited. Andrea has designed programs that have impacted leaders from more than 100 countries, and she blends neuroscience, behavioral strategy, and sharp business insight to drive powerful cultural change. Her work enables orgs to build high-performing, human-centric workplaces where people can truly thrive. And I'm so excited to have you on the show. Welcome, Andrea, to Love as a Strategy. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Jeff. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this topic. When we talked briefly before this long time back, I was nerding out about all this stuff, and I had to stop you because I wanted to record it, and here we are recording it. In order to jump into that, I always start with a question. Andrea, what is your passion, and how did you find it?
My main passion is really enjoying life to the fullest and helping others to enjoy it as well. And for me, I found it by understanding how to define success for myself, not the rule book that might be inherited like many of us do, but really finding success on my own terms. And I have a passion for helping others do that as well.
It's awesome. I love that. And that fits in. I understand that your bread and butter really is like in coaching and helping others. And that kind of shows through kind of all the frameworks you've built, all the philosophies you have here. I would love, I'm trying to find the best starting point, but I do know that in talking about coaching and leading other leaders, I have to imagine change is something that always comes up. At least in my experience, it has. Is that the case for you? And where's your starting point in having those types of conversations? And what do you see in when it comes to change in this space?
Change in the business world today is a daily occurrence. And I've worked for 25 years in multinationals, and I work with many clients of varying sizes all over the globe today. And just the speed of technology, the speed of life, the speed of communication, change is a natural occurrence, and it goes counterintuitive to our own desire as humans for consistency. And so I see it all the time, and it's this balance of staying curious and staying in innovation and wanting to move forward and through the change rather than our natural inclination to go to that fear, fight or flight. So it's a daily occurrence, and it's different magnitudes for sure, but it's a daily occurrence in most folks' lives these days.
Absolutely. Just to get provocative, if I were to take it from a daily occurrence of change, and let's talk about, let's say, large scale change. Let's talk about someone who's trying to lead a business through a complete overhaul, an org structure. I don't know, whatever big thing you can think of. Where do you like, with all of the things that you teach and all the things that you believe, where can we start? Where do you think, how do we handle this process, and how do you guide people through change of that size? What's most important to you?
Well, That's a really big envelope. So there's a couple different layers there. And you let me know which one you want to explore. I mean, you can look at it at the organizational level. How are you leading the North Star in this large change that can impact people's livelihoods, change different directions? And then you have leaders who are going through that change, and then they have people around them that they need to lead through the change. And then they have the individuals at all levels experiencing the change. So, Jeff, I'm going to ask the question when you ask that, where would you like to explore most today in our time together?
Great question. I love when I get questions on this show. But obviously, with a title like Love as a Strategy, my belief is that the often missed part of change is the people side, the human side, the human
Absolutely.
experience side. So I know you mentioned two things were kind of human, the leaders, and then there's also the people. So I'll throw it back to you because as long as it's people we're talking about, that's where I'm curious. But where do you think that opportunity is most often missed, and where do you guide folks from there?
Sure. So I actually think it's missed across the board often. So at the organizational level, when you're doing the change, thinking about how you're going to introduce that change, how you're going to bring people through it, and what is the long-term story of the why of the change, and what's in it for them or not in it for them, in the impact of it, and how do you do that in a humane way that respects them with integrity, knowing that it is a business environment. Next comes the leaders. They're finding out more often than not about a change before the rest of their own organization is, giving them time to process that change from an organizational perspective. And then as a leader, knowing that you might have to relay some information that is hard for people to hear. How do you show up in a empathetic way that still moves people forward through that change, meanwhile process your own change? And then as an individual, how do you accept those changes? All of the occurrences is putting people out of their comfort zone, and how do they have the confidence to go through it? And they'll be at varying degrees in their journey for confidence. Confidence is not something you attain, it's something that you learn over time, every time you come out of your comfort zone. And the only thing you can become confident about is that you can handle ambiguity and change,
Mm.
and that you'll be okay through it. So it's those lenses of preparing the organization, preparing the leaders, and preparing the individuals for the journey, knowing it's counterintuitive to what we as humans want to have to keep safe, which is no change. So that lens of empathy, filling in the story of why is this happening? What's the impact? How's it going to move forward? And the timeliness of it. And then allowing people to have their emotion, yet bring them forward and help them to really adapt to that change, get to their new comfort zone, if you will.
What an amazing summary of all those things. I think that's so beautifully put. But importantly, I think what a word that you said stood out to me, uh, ambiguity. And I find that to be like, all the comfort and pieces make so much sense. But I find that leaders often struggle with ambiguity, but I also believe that leadership happens in ambiguity. Like that's where leadership is needed most. Can you speak a little bit about how you coach, you know, that discomfort? Like how do you help shift the mindset around ambiguity to be more comfortable in it or more capable in it?
Yeah, it starts with building confidence that you can handle the unknown, and that you'll get through the unknown to the other side of the unknown to the known when it becomes known, and you're going to be okay,
Mm.
and that you could help others be okay. And it won't be the same, but it will be okay. And so ambiguity is really an opportunity for curiosity. Don't start making up the stories of what this means, what it doesn't mean, until you have known facts. Generally, I love the book, The Four Agreements, and one of my favorite ones of that from Don Miguel Ruiz is don't make assumptions. And we naturally, as humans, make assumptions, but when you're going through any change or introducing change, we make a lot of assumptions, right? We assume that this is going to impact somebody more harshly than it actually might. Maybe they're happy with the change. We assume that, folks are not going to like it or folks are going to really like it, whatever that assumption might be, rather than creating the right narrative, opening the dialogue, and helping people to process the change. So ambiguity is best addressed with building confidence over time that you can handle ambiguity. And while you're in ambiguity, navigating ambiguity with curiosity. What are the opportunities here? What are the things that are going to be let go? What are the things that are going to be gained? And looking at the new environment of whatever that might be until it becomes the normal again, because it's all cyclical. The comfort zone is momentary. And as we go through the next moment and the next moment, our comfort zone is naturally changing, anyways, as we progress through our lives.
Andrea, I know we don't know each other well, but I just feel I've never been more aligned with a human being in a response in my
Ah,
life. I feel 1000% aligned to how you just explained that. It's beautifully put. And it's at the core of everything I believe about change as well. So I'm so glad you said it that way and just in such a wonderfully put. And it brings me to like all these parallels to how you're saying it match everything I believe in. But that's where I really have this curiosity now about either Maven Method or A3. Like these philosophies of yours, where do they show up in this context? Do they how are they applied? Or maybe you can explain them a little bit for myself and the audience to learn a little bit more about it.
sure. So A3 Culture Lab, which is my speaking and organizational consulting business, is really based on the concept of the three main drivers of having a human-centric organization that is actually prosperous and achieves goals. And that's around authenticity, autonomy, in particular for scale, and accountability. And as I built that, I realized people really struggle with the authenticity. And Brene Brown does a great job in the, vulnerability, but she's also really clear on no faux crying, don't overshare, right? And so people struggle with that. So I came up, and this is when I came out of burnout back in 2017, and it was a method for me to build the mindset that I needed in order to deal with ambiguity, in order to deal with change and not burn out again. And that was the Mindset Maven method. And it entails a Mindset Maven, or a Maven, if you will, is someone who is actually like really well educated. Some might use a correlation of synonym of guru, but it's really educated and then open to educating others or helping others. And Maven also stands for the 5 different complexities, if you will, for having authenticity and maintaining that mindset. And that is mindfulness. For me, the M stands for meditation. Others, it might be other mindfulness practices. A is awareness, becoming aware, and the journey of awareness. We're always learning new things about how we respond, how we react, and how we interact with others. Visualization, it's used by top athletes. We can actually train our brain to what we think it's going to look like and actually then execute to what we visualize. E is managing our energy. And then the N is navigating the ambiguity. So the Mindset Maven method really supports authenticity and the journey to showing up as a human in the workplace.
There's nothing I love more than a good acronym, and I think you nailed it with Maven
Well, thank
here.
you.
And so navigating ambiguity is built right into this understanding, and all of this falls under this idea of authenticity and the challenges that come with being authentic. Is this something like what does the practice of the Maven method look like? Is it philosophical and just like internal, or are there steps to it? Like, can you break that down a little bit?
Yeah, my daily practice that this was built out of, and I've had so many clients that are across the globe, is what are your daily practices of, and for me, it's meditation. It's the closest you can get to re-energizing yourself in a conscious state compared to sleep. It can also be breath work, just taking in a deep breath to get your energy flowing again. Awareness is we cannot show up the way we want to unless we know how we're showing up subconsciously, if you will.
Yeah,
So, awareness is a journey, and it's really about being able to change, but you can't change what you can't see. So, you've got to be intentional about creating awareness. So, setting a daily attention. Visualization, I visualize all my goals and what do I want to achieve and what's that going to look like. And it doesn't have to be a big drawn out process. Energy, I'm constantly monitoring my energy throughout the day, things that drain me, things that energize me, and whether I'm spending my energy in a intentional way. And so when you do all those things, the navigating the ambiguity, again, the daily changes that are coming, whether that's the road that you're traveling on and you're got a tight timeline and the road's got a roadblock on it, you got to turn to somebody coming to work that day and saying that they are leaving the company, whatever that change is that is coming out of the blue for us, you're able to navigate it because you're grounded and you're managing your mind body state.
I love it. I'm internally processing how to apply all these for myself. So forgive me if I'm taking pause. I'm just, and one of the things that I'm most interested in is this awareness piece. The self-awareness piece is how I look at it. Um, how do you, this may sound like a weird question, but how do you define awareness?
So, awareness to me is really an activation point for ongoing growth. Most of us operate on autopilot, running on the same patterns, the reacting to stresses without realizing it. In fact, research is showing us that 90% of the thoughts that we have today, we're going to have again tomorrow, unless we set an intention for that to be different. So when you build awareness through your thoughts, your emotional triggers, I call them activators, the way your stress shows up in body, your emotions and your nervous system are reacting to stress before it ever gets to your thinking brain. I do a lot in the neuroscience of the three brains because you've got neurons in your gut and in your heart. And when you unlock choice by understanding, oh, my shoulders get tight, before I'm really going to get stressed, or my toes tapping, whatever your nervous system blueprint is that gives you those signals, you're at choice, and choice is power. So without awareness, you're trapped. But with every new awareness, and again, it's a journey, we don't become aware. We're learning things every day because we're changing every day. When you have that, you can shift and you can control the shift, the direction that you want to go. And there's lots of different techniques in creating awareness, and I go through that in my Mindset Maven lab that I offer a couple times a year. So, um, does that answer your question?
It does. And that's why I wanted to ask, because I mean, I talk about awareness a lot too. And I also talk about self-awareness and how we, I guess, show up for others through that. And I was wondering if, and it's clear, like your definition of awareness is also just almost an inward-looking awareness as well. Correct? It's making sure you're cognitively like noticing where you are showing up as well. And I think that's the clarity I needed, because I personally find that work very hard. I find that, and I know I need to go join you in one of your sessions so I can get better at it. But I find that, I find myself just stuck externally throughout a standard work day, right? I'm looking at factors out here that I can control, people that I can talk to, all these other pieces to move on the chessboard. And I think that inward looking awareness is a real challenge, to be honest. It seems like I'm not seeing the signals, or I'm missing the opportunities.
And we're always doing them, and it's a different type of listening. And what I find with my clients is that when we become more aware of our own signals and our own emotions, because it's a myth. People say, oh, it's not professional to bring your emotions to work. Well, your nervous system never got that memo. And you are going to have emotions traveling through you. How do you regulate those? How do you acknowledge them? The energy is going to get out. Ever had a good belly laugh? It's going to get out. So we just get curious, and we get curious about what's happening for ourselves. What am I getting upset about? And there's actually a quick little 60-second reset that you can do in taking a pause and taking that reflection. But when you do start becoming aware of your tells or your signals or your flags, whatever you want to call them, you start seeing it in the wild of your life every day. You'll start noticing and get curious about somebody else whose shoulders might are getting really tight, or their voice inflection is going differently, or they're pulling away from the camera on Zoom. I'm trying to do it right now because I don't know, we'll be audio on this, but folks might see the video too. Or they're really leaning in. The physical and the non-physical signals that are portrayed, once we start becoming aware of them for ourselves, we start seeing it in others. And then we can even get more curious on a human connection perspective of what's really going on here.
Mm. And there's that word again, curious, one of my favorite words, and I think one of the absolute keys to really growth as a human, but especially in the conversations we have around business and change and leadership. Curiosity is like just the superpower, I think, that we can all have. And I've heard you use it so many times. I'm going to assume you agree how important of a role it plays.
Absolutely, absolutely. And during my time at Microsoft, I had the honor of being there with the magnitude of change that we did. Satya Nadella called it going from a know-it-all to a learn-it-all. And we had Carol Dweck, who we had the opportunity to work with on the
Wow.
growth mindset. So it's curiosity in the workplace, but curiosity for us as humans keeps us out of assumptions and actually can help us connect better human to human.
Well, I want to now extend my podcast lengths maybe by 20 or 30 minutes, because I would love to cover every other little detail of Mindset Maven and even A3. But we have arrived at the end of the session we have today. But I can't thank you enough. Is there anything, Andrea, that you'd like to share with the audience in terms of how to reach out to you, how to learn more, how to have this conversation?
Sure, I'm sure we'll have this in the show notes as well. You can reach out and connect and follow some of the work I'm doing on LinkedIn. You can also go to a3culturelab.com or the sub website of mindsetmaven.com, and you can sign up to learn more about the programs that we've talked about today.
Awesome. We will have those in the show notes for sure. Andrea, I can't thank you enough for the time, the wisdom. It's been amazing. So really appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. To our listeners, I hope you're enjoying the episodes. I know we're changing a few things up on you, but it is about change. It is a season of change, and we want to talk about change. So thanks for tuning in to Love as Strategy. If you haven't checked out the books yet, Love as a Business Strategy, Love as a Change Strategy, which as of this recording is a national bestseller. It made the list, I think, last week. But please go check it out. And if you haven't, subscribe, rate the podcast. Appreciate all that. Until next time, I'll see you again.
Love is a strategy.